Europe is the centerpiece of all troubles the world have had. 2 world wars, worst ideologies. Europe has to be pushed away for the time being from being a centerpiece of world policies or world politics. And for that we have to defeat Ukraine, quote unquote. We are fighting in Ukraine not against the Ukrainians. We are fighting against Europe.
But Europe now is scrambling to boost its defences. The EU says that this is a watershed moment for Europe. President Macron said Russia is a threat to the whole of Europe. Obviously, Europe fears that Russia won't stop in Ukraine and will go further. I mean, is Europe right to fear that?
Russia doesn't need Europe. Why on earth should we take over, this junk, which is moral junk, which Europe has become? We don't need it. The only reason why we started to fight was that we have been predicting and warning for 27 years NATO expansion and should not come close to Russian borders. And that's why,
So how is Russia going to respond? Or how do you think Russia should respond to what is being said and done in Europe now?
We should defeat, crush I would call moral spine of European elites like we did twice already in recent history.
What does crushing the moral spine of Europe mean today?
That means that we have to show them that their aggression is detrimental to them, especially to the elites.
I heard you recently talking about the need for possibly nuclear escalation or going up the ladder of nuclear escalation. How far up the ladder of nuclear deterrence or escalation are you prepared to go?
If needed, up to the last point. But hopefully already we have passed that point, hopefully, because Americans, after we started to climb the ladder, started to retreat.
Do you rule out, for example, a preemptive nuclear strike on Europe?
Why? Not now. In principle, I have been arguing that if things go like that, we should punish Europeans.
You mean a preemptive strike?
Preemptive strike, and we would do that with impunity. But as I've said, and publicly, and also not so publicly, it is a terrible moral choice. We shouldn't do that. But if pushed to the wall, we could have done that with impunity. Americans never would have struck back.
Some would say that even the suggestion of a preemptive nuclear strike on Europe is at the very least irresponsible and at the very most kind of madness to suggest launching a preemptive nuclear strike.
Let me remind you that official NATO policy presumes first strike. NATO has been built on this presumption. That is a part of a NATO doctrine. So Russia, people like myself, are simply emanating what NATO have been doing for decades.
On the subject of NATO, there's a lot of talk at the moment about the weakness of NATO, questioning whether America is committed to NATO. Does that make it more likely that, for example, Russia would at some point send troops into a NATO country, into the Baltic states?
Of course, if a NATO country jeopardizes our security directly, that could be done. But why on earth? The best way, and I've been telling that our neighbors for the best way to cater to European security is to have good relations with Russia. Friendly, better, correct. Why on earth should we go to this junkyard, which some Europeans are turning their subcontinent into? We have enough resources, more than enough land to develop.
I just want to check what the aim of Russia is here. Is the aim to come to some kind of deal on Ukraine, or is the aim to ensure the capitulation of Kiev?
First of all, the best possible outcome is, of course, total capitulation of Europe, of Ukraine and Europe. We have to finish this war one way or another, and I hope that what was left of Ukraine would be totally demilitarized and neutralized, and live in peace. I mean, they could be, and not used as a spearhead against Russia. If not, if it would be used, I mean, the war would resume.
Wasn't the war unnecessary in the first place? I mean, there was no danger, really, was there, of the West attacking Russia,
Absolutely.
Ukraine invading
let's
Russia?
put it this way. I've been talking, with you and people like you and your leaders since openly, since '97, that if you continue that war, if you continue expansion of NATO, which is a military political aggression, which has been a military political aggression, building up threat, the war would happen. So it happened.
In the West, there's a lot of criticism of Russia at the moment, saying there is no sign of compromise, no sign of concessions being made by Moscow. What is sort of Russia's response to that?
Why should we? We have been attacked for 27 years. We are fighting back. We are victorious.
But it was Russia that launched the full-scale invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago.
Sorry, we have been telling that we have been fighting back the 27 years or 28 years of military political aggression of NATO.